One of the things I wanted to do more of this year was share the items that are actually selling in my booth. If it's your first time here, my name is Laura and I'm the owner of Oak Street Exchange, where I sell vintage and like vintage items in my booth at an antique store. I'm also sharing the entire journey here on YouTube. So if you want to follow along, make sure that you click subscribe. Now at the end of December, I did switch booths, which changed my layout completely. It also changed how many items I could actually have in my booth. I did do an entire video on that move, so if you haven't seen it yet, I'll put a link in the description so that you can check it out. And today I'm gonna go over everything that sold through the entire month, starting with the 2 caneback chairs. These were definitely a focal point of the new booth layout. I was really excited that they had a vintage look, but also a pop of color. I was able to sell each of these chairs for $65. I was really excited to get started on such a good sale because it was the first sale of the month and really the first sale of the year. That totaled $130. The second item that I sold was a small flower painting. This is actually the second time I've sold one of the small paintings, and it's something that I'm starting to look for more and more as I'm out shopping. This sold for $6. Third item on the list is this small metal bell. I thought this was one of the best decorative pieces that I had. It's actually been there since I opened the booth back in September, and I'm really surprised someone didn't scoop it up in December for Christmas, but it did sell at the beginning of the month for $8. The next item on this list was my half round table. This is one that I talked about in a few videos because I was surprised that it sold. It was definitely kind of a centerpiece of the booth, or at least a really strong display piece. Now, when I put this piece in the booth, I definitely had an option to list it not for sale and keep it as a display piece. But furniture has been a huge seller in my booth, so I wanted to add a price so that someone could buy it. I also think this is a great way to change up the booth and be able to filter through display pieces. So while it kind of threw me for a loop when someone did buy it, I was very excited to see it go. It also led to me making an entire video about finding another table to put in there, which is where the wooden ironing board came in, and I really like how it looks now. Next on the list is a small ruffled dish. This is a dish that kind of came in a lot with other items, so it's kind of a surprise for me to get, but I loved the blue color, and like many of you have noticed, I've started focusing on the blue color this time of year, so this is one of those pieces that drew that throughout the booth. It's such a small piece, I always pictured it being perfect for like a candy dish, and it sold for $10. Another item that I've sold a few of since I opened have been my packs of stickers. I actually just purchased new packs to put in the booth to help kind of filter through and give something new to look at, but I did sell 1 pack of stickers in January. The next item on this list is this candle holder. This is another piece that has a huge pop of color, and I was excited to see that someone scooped it up. I actually found this at a garage sale last summer, so I've had it for a while, and I was excited that it finally sold. It sold for $16. The next 2 items sold together, and they were 2 books. Somehow in my booth, I've come up with this presidential section because I have the Abraham Lincoln Bank, and under it I had a few books. One was a Thomas Jefferson book, and then the 2 that sold was a 1954 book on the Constitution and a book from 1966 about the presidents. These were both pretty big sized books, and the fact that the colors worked together, I'm not surprised that they sold at the same time. I sold the Constitution book for $10 and the President's book for $8. The next item that sold was this peach crate. I was really excited when I found this piece because it looked vintage. I'm pretty sure it's newer, but because the look would fit so well in a farmhouse design, I thought this would be great for the booth. It looked really neat on top of the picnic basket, but I'm not surprised that it moved quickly. It sold for $14. The next 3 items also sold together. I was able to scoop up an entire set of brass candlestick holders. The set that I bought had 8 different candlestick holders, and they were almost all a different size. So I actually decided to price them individually because I thought if I priced them together, it would just be too expensive. I also expected that somebody wouldn't want all of them, which has actually proven to be true. In January, I did sell 3 of them, all different heights. One of them sold for $8, another for $6, and then the third for $5. And then I did end up selling another book in January. This book was smaller and green, and it was actually about growing trees. It sold for $6. And then towards the end of the month, one of my most exciting sales was my vintage fan. In December, I shared how to change the plug end of a cord, and it was actually on this fan. I was eager to get it put in the booth because I think it would be a really cool decorative piece, but it's also fun that it still works. It sold in the last week of January for $32. And then the final sale of the month was actually a piece of fabric. About halfway through the month, I realized that I just needed to add a few pieces of fabric in the booth to kind of soften everything up. I added them as accent pieces on the wooden ironing board and then by the chair. It was really kind of hard to decide what to price them at because they were just pieces of fabric. What I did is I bought a yard of fabric and then cut it in half, and only one of them sold, but the half yard sold for $8. That brings the grand total of items to 16. I think one of the most surprising things about having the booth is the quantity of items that sell. I think it's because I'm always out shopping, looking for new items, and then adding them to the booth, that I expect that quantity to be really high every month. So it's always shocking to me to see only 16 items sold, but my sales were $320, which was my second best month since opening the booth. Couldn't be more excited to be in my first 6 months and already be making sales over $300 in a month. But just like every antique booth, there's still fees associated with having the booth open. So my booth fees come out of that number. My rent for the space is $87. And then my antique store also takes 10%. So that's another $32 for my sales in January. And then as a vendor, we actually pay the credit card fees. So if someone pays with cash, there's no fee. And if they pay with credit card, we have to pay 3%. My total fees for credit card this month were $9. All of that adds up to $128 in fees. So my check from the antique booth for January is $192. It's definitely hard to see that big sales number and then see everything taken out for the fees, but I definitely think it's worth it. All I have to do is manage my space and take care of my little corner of the store, and they operate all of the sales, all of the paperwork, and taking care of all the customers. And they're really good at it, so I appreciate everything that they do at the store. Those are all my fees associated with the booth, and you might be wondering if I made any money after paying for all of those items, but the total cost for everything that I sold in January was $60. So after all of the math, my profit for the month was $132. I've been told that January and February are both really slow months in the booth, so I'm excited that even on a slow month, I was able to make over $130. It's really easy to go through and share all of the items that I'm buying, but it's harder for you to know what is actually selling. So if this is a video that you want to see more of, let me know in the comments. It might be something that I start doing every month just so that you can keep up on what's selling. I'm also eager to hear any tips that you might have for the booth. Leave those in the comments because it's the first 6 months. All I see is potential, and I'm really excited to see what we can do this year. I'm also really excited to share a few furniture flips that I've been working on, and it's almost time to redesign the entire thing. Thanks for following along. We'll see you next time.